So I'm not saying disrespect your family, but if they're disrespecting you by not letting you love who you want to love, there is no reason for you to give that up just because your family feel ashamed. In today's video, we're going to be discussing lessons in love. So things like religious differences, cultural differences, and other really important factors when you're dating as a brown girl. So if that interests you, just keep watching. Firstly, I really want to talk about dating different races when you are a brown girl and what that's like, because I've dated people of a different race to me, different religion and a different culture, and all of those things have taught me a lot, but the main factor I remember growing up was feeling like I wasn't allowed to date anyone outside of my culture when I was a brown girl. When I was a brown girl, I'm still a brown girl. I am still a brown girl. I remember when I was growing up, my dad had said to me, when you're ready to date, and I wasn't allowed to date in school or anything like that, and obviously I secretly did, I don't mind who you bring home as long as they're not black, Muslim or Pakistani. I literally called my dad racist. I was like, you are so racist. I can't believe you're saying this. And I remember saying to him, oh, one day I'm gonna bring home a black Pakistani Muslim boy. I feel like that's really rare. And that's what I told my dad is what I was gonna do, just to spite him. And he laughed it off and he realized he's not gonna be able to control who I love and who I bring home. I was talking to my sister about filming this video and I was like, oh, I was just wondering what else I could talk about. And then she told me that she had a Malayali friend whose parents told her, date whoever you want, just don't bring home any BMWs. And she said, what does that mean? And her parents said, blacks, Muslims or whites. I find it so mind-boggling that people in our culture can be so offended by you dating someone outside of your culture and tainting the bloodline. I do understand when you date someone from a different cultural background, a different religious background, and why families might be a bit, nervous about that. I actually understand that, and we'll get into that later on in this video. If my child brought home someone that they loved and they were a good person and they worked hard, that is all that would matter to me. I don't understand how you can turn your back on your child because they chose to love someone that didn't look like them. For the last 5 years or so, I've not dated anyone outside of the South Asian demographic. I remember dating a white boy when I was 20 years old, and it was very brief, and we were on our way back from a date in the car and I was talking about my mum and he said something like, where in England is your mum from? And I was at Oxford. We carried on talking and then he realised that my mum is Indian and he was like, oh, I thought you were mixed race. I said, no, my mum is Indian. She was born here but she's fully Malayali. And he was like, oh, but your dad's white. And I said, no, none of my parents are white. Both of my parents are Malayali, they're brown, they're from Kerala. And he was like, oh, I thought you were mixed race. And I was like, literally no, there is nothing on me that makes me look mixed race. I felt like I was stepping down from a pedestal in his eyes when I said I'm just Indian. It made me feel like I wasn't as special as he thought I was because I was mixed race. Do you guys remember when there was this fetish going on in 2010s to 2020 where mixed race people were all the hype, you had to be mixed race? In my family there's a couple of people who have dated white men now, and we do have white people in our family and it's very normalized, which I'm so grateful for, because if I had ever brought home a white guy then I know that everything would have been fine. I do feel like my white ex-boyfriends' families were really, really kind and really, really accepting of me, and I never felt like other or anything. They just treated me so normally. But I could never really imagine introducing my white boyfriends to my Indian family. There was just some sort of mental block going on for me where I felt like we would be judged as a couple, or he would be judged, or I would be judged. There was always something going on for me. And I remember every time I dated white boys when I was growing up, and my mum, she's always known about my boyfriends. We've got such a good relationship and she's been really trusting of me. And when I've dated white boys, she's always been a bit more on edge about it, and she doesn't mean to be. I just think it's naturally it's quite scary for your child to date someone of a different race, I guess. But back when I was dating white boys, there was no one in my family really dating white men, so I did always feel oh gosh, I'm going to be the first, it's going to cause rumours, people are going to talk about it in the community. I always felt really nervous about that, and I guess I felt that way about dating black men as well, and how that would be perceived in the community, especially because of how racist the Indian community can be towards black people. So naturally I grew up feeling a little oh gosh, what if this does happen? It never stopped me from dating white boys or black boys, but it did make me feel on edge if it did ever get serious, and it just never did. My relationships with white and black men just never happened to get to that stage. I know a couple of Pakistani girls and Indian girls that have dated black men, and their families have just kind of not disowned them, but they've massively drifted apart. I do think that true love is so rare, and if you feel like you've found your soulmate, someone that treats you like a queen and makes you so happy and makes you laugh and gives you the best experience out of life, I think it's okay to say goodbye to your family. Like, I genuinely do, because if your family loved you more than they loved the way that people perceive them, they would let you date who you wanted to date. But if they're choosing the community and their self-image over you, then, you know, do your thing, pick who you want to love. Your life is yours, not your family's. I feel like there's going to be aunties and uncles in the comments hating me for saying that. So I'm not saying disrespect your family, but if they're disrespecting you by not letting you love who you want to love, if they're a really good person, working hard, treating you amazingly, there is no reason for you to give that up just because your family feel ashamed. Something really weird I noticed when I was planning this video is all the white boys I've dated have also been children of divorce. So if you don't know, my parents split up a very long time ago, and I feel like that must be why I connected to the white boys more than I connected to brown boys when I was growing up. Because in brown communities, divorce has always been quite taboo, and it doesn't really happen because your parents just stay together no matter what. And even if they're really unhappy and it's a really toxic marriage, you just stay together because divorce is not appropriate in our community. Whereas with white people, I feel like people are getting divorced every other second. Like, that's so normal because they just decide they're not happy and it doesn't matter what people think, they're going to get divorced. My mum and dad separating at a young age definitely taught me a lot about my self-worth, and it taught me to be really picky with who I date and be really picky with who I end up in a relationship with. It taught me to respect myself and make hard decisions, even if the outcome is really scary. My mum got an arranged marriage when she was really young, and my dad was so much older than her, and she didn't really have much life experience. So for her to be in that position to say, this is not making me happy, this is not the right relationship, I have to leave, like, that is such a brave thing to do, especially in the Indian community where you do get judged and you might get told that you've split up a home and that your children won't have a father, and, you know, all sorts of different people coming at you saying different things. As I've gotten older, I have learned to appreciate more and more what my mum did for herself and what she did for me and my sister by doing that. My second ever boyfriend when I was really young, he was Malayalee as well, but he was Christian. And I remember him saying to me from the get-go, you know, my mum's Christian, she's not going to approve of you unless you're Christian. And he just stayed with me, like, he continued dating me. And I just always had like warning signs in my head, like, why am I even doing this? Why am I in this relationship if it's not really going anywhere because I'm not going to become Christian? Like, we can't predict that. He never ever reassured me and said, it doesn't matter what my family think, I will be with you no matter what, we'll make it work, I'll make my mum accept you. He never said anything like that. So to me, that was like a really big red flag, and it was one of the reasons I broke up with him, because it just didn't seem realistic to date someone that wasn't going to be long term. I have always been like this, even from a really young age. Even when I was 15 years old, getting my first boyfriend, if the end goal isn't marriage for me, then I definitely don't want something like that. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is not to date someone for their potential, and I think that is a lesson that guy had to learn. I guess he thought that I was probably going to turn out to be Christian, and I never did. If they aren't the person you want them to be, communicate your needs, and it's likely that something that big, like religion, culture, or lifestyle, something that big is going to be really hard to change. It's probably easier to walk away from that than fight your way through something that is really hard to change in someone else. I think it makes it so much harder to date someone whose core beliefs are different to yours. Me and my boyfriend being a vegan and a non-vegan, that is quite a hard balance in our relationship, and I think we handle it well, but it does have its challenges. And for me personally, I don't believe in eating animals. That is a core belief. And that's just our personal journey that we have to take, and we have to learn to adapt. But if you have the emotional intelligence to look past that and love someone for who they are at their core, I think you can make it work. An example of this is my mum and her fiance. They've been together for a really long time. My mum is Hindu and her partner is Christian, and they've been together for years and they've made it work. They're both very religious people and they have their separate faiths, but they do come together in other areas of their life, and they have mutual respect for each other's religions, and that's how I think they make it work. But something really difficult about that relationship is the judgment they face from the community for being two different religions and two different cultures as well. My stepdad's Punjabi and my mum is Malayali, and there are lots of different cultural differences. But in the Christian community, I do feel like my mum gets a bit of hate because she isn't Christian. So for example, my stepdad's having quite a rough time at the moment, and someone in the Christian community said, oh, this misfortune that's happening to you, it's because you're with a non-believer. Blaming his pain and the horrible things happening in his life on his innocent partner, like, I find that so crazy and so manipulative. I do think that when religion is so important to someone, they can make it their agenda to put it onto other people, and that is not fair, especially when you're blaming illnesses and things like that on another person. That is literally like blaming an earthquake on my mum. Because she's a non-believer, that's why we had an earthquake. No, that's literally like saying it rained today because she's a non-believer. No, I really feel like that mindset needs to change, especially in the Indian community. I created this YouTube channel so that I could give advice, so that's what we're here to do today. Some lessons I think that are really important when you're dating outside of your culture is to take an interest in the person you are dating's culture and their religion or their lifestyle. Whatever it is about them that makes them different to you, take an interest in it, and they need to also take an interest in you. You need to be actively participating in each other's lives, especially in the areas that make you different. Otherwise, you are going to make your partner feel like their beliefs and interests are not important to you. That will destroy your relationship. So make sure you have a solid foundation in taking care of each other and appreciating each other's differences. As long as you have respect and understanding for your partner's decisions, you can think very differently and you can make it work. You need to build bridges between your families. So if you come from 2 different religions or 2 different countries, or your families don't speak the same language, find ways to make it work. Find ways to put everyone in a room together if you can. I know it's really, really hard, especially if your families are really stubborn and strong-willed. That makes it really, really hard. But if you are able to, then definitely do it. Bring everyone together for your birthday, have a mixed kind of buffet of different cuisines, learn each other's languages, celebrate the differences. The reason I say that is because I don't even think my ex-boyfriends knew what language I spoke. And that's not their fault, that's completely my fault for not educating them and not showing an interest in my own culture and not wanting them to be part of that, because I had this wall up thinking that they weren't going to be accepted by my family, so I didn't really introduce them to that culture as well. And I was also super whitewashed, and I made a video about that, the Brown Girl Diaries, episode 1, go watch it if you want to. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I really appreciate you sticking to the end. If you have enjoyed this video, do press the like button and comment your thoughts down below. Connect with me and connect with other brown girls who are subscribed to my channel so we can build a community. Also, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers this month, so if you can make that happen for me, I'd be so grateful. And if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see on the Brown Girl Diaries or on my channel in general, I typically make advice videos and things like that. Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys really soon. Take care now, bye bye.